Hello guys, in today's video we are going to be doing some brakes on a Ford Focus as promised, and this will be rear brakes. I'm going to do a how-to video on doing this, and what I'll do is I'll just take you for a little walk around the car, show you what the scenario is, what I've done already, because I've already done the passenger side. I haven't touched the driver's side. The car is already jacked up and all the wheel nuts are already loose. So let's have a look at what we've got to do. So this is a black Ford Focus 1.8 turbo diesel. Some nice lovely alloys on there, which I'm going to be honest, are a bit stubborn to get off, but we'll see on that side as to how that turns up. We've got one brand new brake disc, two brand new brake pads, so that's one set for one side. And the reason, obviously, like I said just now, that we've got that is because we've already got the old brake disc there, because on the passenger side of this vehicle it has already been all done with new pads, new disc, and I'm going to now set you up on the tripod on the other side of the vehicle and we'll do a how-to of how we got to this stage. So stay tuned if you'd like to see that. So for this job, guys, we'll need a flathead screwdriver, a relatively normal hammer, trusty torch, selection of spanners. We also need a size 7 Allen key bit and 13mm socket on various different extensions. And we've already we need the wheel brace of a 19mm and the corresponding locking wheel nut, because this has got locking wheel nuts. But as sometimes we have a problem because these are already got the wheel nuts off, and what you find with alloys sometimes is, even though there's no wheel nuts, that don't want to come off. So what we also need is a rubber mallet and some brute force and ignorance. Let's put some feet into the action. And eventually we get there. I now get my seat to sit on. So I'll bring you in closer so you can see a bit better. So just here, guys, we've got the bleed nipple. What we're going to do is we're going to literally just crack this loose and then tighten it back up so we know it's free moving, for the purpose of pushing the piston back. That's nice and loose, and now we'll tighten that straight back up so we know it's not going to leak too much. The idea is just to free it up so we can don't have to worry about straining too much when the caliper's disconnected. And now we need to pull off these caps. There's one at the top of the caliper and one down the bottom there. Right, so we need the 7mm Allen key on the top here to undo this pin here. So guys, that's the first one out. Let's get the bottom one out. But before we do that, I've really forgot that we need to take the spring off the front. That's where the flathead screwdriver comes in, because we can literally just go into there like so, pop that off, and he says pop that off just like so, because we need that out the way first. Right, we're going to undo the bottom one now. Right, so that's number 2 out. So that will now just literally, again with a flathead screwdriver, to give it a little bit of a gentle, easy assistance. And just like that. And because there isn't much of a flexi on it, and we've got the handbrake cable, I don't need to worry too much about holding this up, because the handbrake cable will kind of lessen the strain on the flexi cable. Normally I would pin them back and hold them up so there's no strain on the flexi. Because this is a rear one with the handbrake cable attached, I'm not worried too much about that, because the handbrake cable will keep up the strain off of the flexi. That can come off, that can come off. And now we need the 13mm just on the back 2 bolts which hold the carrier in place, because we're doing a discs and pads change on this vehicle. So guys, that one was a bit tight and I had to use straight bar on what I use as like a extension to give me like extra length, just to break it loose. Now I can go in with a ratchet on the 13mm and undo these. Top one, I've got to do the bottom one as well yet, but the bottom one's a little bit crusty. I know it's definitely a 13, So I will use my 13mm socket and just gently ease it onto the bolt with the assistance of a light tap from a hammer, because I'd rather do that than try and risk busting the bolt thinking, oh, it may not be a 13, and that's where rounded bolts come in. Basically, if you know it's a 13 or you know what size it is, make sure you use the correct socket, otherwise you will round the head out and that will be a whole world of pain in the long run. That's the top one out. Let's like I say, let's tap this onto the bottom one so we know it's got a firm grip on there, because it won't go on properly without a little bit of assistance. Now I've tapped that on, I will just double check that it's seated onto that bolt correctly and nice and flat. Yep, I'm happy with that. I'm now going to undo it basically. So we've got the last bolt out, the caliper carrier is coming off as well, and now we've got to get the disc off. This should just pull off, but based on the other side and based on how stuck that is feeling like it is, that ain't gonna. So I'll show you what I do with that. I'm basically just going to whack it with a hammer. Right, so a good short and hard hit in between the wheel studs should in theory be enough to shock it loose. So we're getting there, guys. Maybe if I keep wiggling. Yep, keep wiggling and that's off. Taking you off the tripod, guys, just to bring you in and show you where we're at. The actual piston on the caliper still needs pushing back, and that is why at the start of the video we loosened the bleed nipple, so we know we'd be able to get it undone now without having to worry about bolting it back up just to be able to undo the bleed nipple. I'm going to use this caliper wind back tool, and if it's a front caliper, all you need to worry about is physically pushing it back. The piston will go straight back. But being that this is a rear caliper on a vehicle and we've got the handbrake, they work in a completely different way. Well, not a completely different way, they're just screw threaded inside. So you can't physically just push them back. And the reason for that is when the brake fluid pushes it onto the pads to give you stopping power, there needs to be an alternative method of getting this piston to move for the purpose of the handbrake. That's why it's screw threaded, and the handbrake cable will pull on a little cog inside for the handbrake to work. So what we've got on the other side, we had to use a right hand threaded caliper wind back tool. This side is a left hand threaded, and what that means is you rotate it to left, so anti-clockwise. And on the other side, whether it was a right hand thread on the passenger side of this vehicle but needing a right handed thread, you just rotate it clockwise, and this one will be anti-clockwise. And obviously, as you can see, there's my set there, and I've got this one out rather than that one which I used for the other side. So I'll get you back on the tripod and you can watch me wind this back. So we've also got on this a corresponding cap which actually fits just into the designated holes on the piston face, and then we'll just pop that into there like so. And then if we then wind this up first, just so we've got some pressure behind there so it doesn't fall out on us. And now, so we don't push the fluid all the way back to the reservoir, because if you push the fluid all the way back through to the reservoir, you can bust the seal in the reservoir. That's why we broke, that's another reason why we broke the bleed nipple loose. And I'm literally going to crack the bleed nipple and we're then going to wind this down. Okay, I'll retract my earlier statement. This is not a left hand thread, they're both exactly the same and both being a right hand thread. So I'll get the caliper wind back tool on here and we'll get it done, turning it the correct way. Right, failed attempt over, take two. Let's wind this back with the correct one, which is the right hand thread, because I didn't realise that earlier, in a second ago, it was actually both right hand thread. So guys, you'll be able to see now that that's all wound down as it should be. We'll just get this removed. Right, so guys, what we're now going to do is literally, I have done the bleed nipple up and I put a bit of pipe on there and drained that off into a little bucket so it wouldn't leak everywhere. That's how I bled it out, so it was gone. And what we're now going to do is just put that back there out the way for now. Nice shiny new disc, well, barring the fact that I've just put greasy oily fingerprints over it, but that'll be fine. I'm sure they'll soon wear out. And now we're going to put the caliper carrier back on with the two 13mm bolts, if he puts it the right way. Right, so the 13mm bolts are back in, and just like that, guys, both 13mm bolts are in, and they're all tight, nice and tight. We've now got two brake pads to put in. We've now got two brake pads to put in, and what you'll find is the spring ones go on the inside, the non-spring ones go on the outside. So guys, I've literally got the caliper on now, and literally just doing up the last bolt at the top with the 7mm Allen key, and then we've then got two caps to put in as well, which just go in like so. That's that job done. We're literally just going to put the wheels back on, pump the brake pedal a few times just to make sure it's still firm, check the brake fluid level to make sure it has got enough in it and it's all topped up, and we're pretty much going to give this car back to my dad. I'd like to say a big thank you, sarcastic thank you, to Ford. Brand new wheel nuts this car had less than 6 months ago. The cap come off already. These are less than 6 months old, these caps, and they're absolutely ridiculous. So, as I always, with my dad and everything, always having trouble with these stupid wheel nuts that Ford give you. We actually went to Ford and bought these and paid through the nose for them. Just a little insider tip. If you do lose the caps on your Focus, that is an 18mm perfect fit socket. So just an insider tip, if that does come off for any reason whatsoever, while it's on there it's 19mm, while it's not on there it's 18mm. So that's a little bit of a, like I said, a little tip for someone. And also where we've done these brakes, and I've done it with the sense of releasing the bleed nipple and allowing it to bleed through that way whilst I was pushing the piston back, pushing the caliper piston back, that has done two things for us. One is we haven't pushed fluid back through the system to the master reservoir, potentially risking busting a seal on that. And the other thing is as well, by having the bleed system on there and using the bleed nipple to push it back, we haven't allowed any air to get in the system either. So because we've not allowed any air to get in the system, I'm quite happy not to bleed these brakes and just allow the servo and the brake master cylinder to push the pads back onto the disc and call it done in that sense. But like I said, I will check the brake fluid. But again, another sarcastic thank you to Ford. The brake fluid reservoir is there. I've literally got barely enough room to get my fingers in. So I'm literally just going to shine a torch down the side, make sure it's okay. If it is, lovely jubbly. If it isn't, I'm probably going to have to top it up using some sort of syringe or something, because I really don't want to be taking all these covers off unless I have to. Because the other way to actually get that proper access to that without filling it up with like a syringe or like some sort of pump system, is to literally take all this off and then be able to, because there's no, even if I was to pull this seal off, there's no way through whatsoever. So like I said, I'm just going to grab the torch on the side of that and have a look in it and see what I can see. You should be able to see the colour difference and tell where the actual brake fluid is by the fact that I'm shining my torch through. It is literally just there, just below the maximum line. I'm happy to leave it there, because when we did pump the pedal, obviously it did drop down a little bit and it was literally sitting, it was a little bit, probably a little bit low to start with, before I even started this, and it sat literally just above the minimum line, and I wanted just to put that little bit more in. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to show you how I done that, because I don't have like any sort of special pump or special tools or anything. Just so you guys know how I got in there to put brake fluid in, I literally tilted the DOT 4 brake fluid bottle to one side, and I used an old Calpol style 5ml syringe, sucked the brake fluid up into that, and then literally just put it into there a little bit at a time. Now it took longer than it probably would if I had proper tools, but there's a way out if you need to top up your brake fluid on these Ford Focuses without any special tools. You can find these in any of the children's like Calpol boxes, and obviously don't use one that you're using for your children, for obvious reasons, but this one's been in my toolbox for a while now, and it pretty much does jobs like this for me. So yeah, definitely not needed for anything other than what I'm doing here. But I'm happy to give this car back to my dad and call it finished, basically. So guys, the car is all done, and I'm just literally going to move my van out of the way so my dad can take it home now. So I hope you enjoyed the content, and thank you for watching. I hope I was as informative as I could possibly be. If you would like to follow what I get up to outside of YouTube and see the basically the sneak peeks of the videos before they go up, you can follow me on my Instagram page, that is known as the ZX Guy as well. And you can head over there and see what I'm getting up to outside of YouTube, like I say, or you'll get the sneak peeks of the up and coming videos before they hit YouTube. But for now guys, I'll bid you farewell. Just before I do go though, if you'd like to watch another one of my amazing videos, there'll be one on the screen just here, around here somewhere. And if you would like to subscribe, please consider subscribing because it helps the channel grow. You can do that just on this side. And yes, I know I've got very mucky hands because I haven't had a chance to wash them yet, but that's what good old Swarth Eagle will do for me, nice and clean in a little while when I go in and clean them. But bye for now guys.